We're laughing aloud now, magic in the air. Wands roll around us, cast away our care. Friends in the hallways, adventures we find. Spells and enchantments, trouble on our mind. That's so wizard, oh, 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 oh. Life is a spell we know. We're casting joy and glow, oh, oh. That's a wizard show.
Wizards of the Coast says it's not about greed. What's up, nerds? It's your boy, the OG GM, coming to you live from Site B on another foggy, gloomy October morning. It's the 9th day of October 2024, and it's time for That's So Wizards! That's So Wizards is filmed live in front of a studio audience consisting of Steve the Cat. All right, we've got a plethora of Wizards of the Coast news and controversies to go over this week and be all upset about. And the top story is not artificial intelligence, not the new DM's guide. No, it's this little story that people, Wizards of the Coast, just kind of slid under the door, hoping no one would notice, but nope, they got called out. Apparently, there's been a lot of complaints about the direction the Magic the Gathering is going, considering that is the Wizards of the Coast still main money thing, that they're getting tired of the quick buck builds, the Magic the Gathering Transformers crossover, the Magic the Gathering Lord of the Rings crossover, the Magic of the Gathering Grumpy Cat crossover, the Magic the Gathering OG GM crossover. Yeah, I was there first. They should cross over with me. That these just feel like quick bucks, just quick cash grabs. Mind you, why these people are complaining, they're continuing to gobble up these Magic the Gathering crossovers, and some of the highest priced cards currently, not counting the Power 9, are from the Magic the Gathering crossovers. In fact, that One Ring super duper ultra rare card sold for, what was it, 1.5 million, 2 million, which is a lot considering the next most pricey Magic the Gathering card, which are the Moxes and the Black Lotus, are, 15, 20, 30 grand and not in the millions. So they're complaining that Magic the Gathering is spewing out these quick cash grab short run sets, which are barely legal, but there doesn't stop them from buying them and jacking up the price. Wizards of the Coast claims that these crossovers have nothing to do with money. They're all about just expanding the love and joy of the game and introducing people to different universes and showing that, after 31 years, we got to keep Magic fresh. We got to keep Magic hip. We got to keep Magic cool. We got to link Magic to the things that all you kids are watching. Dragon Ball, that's still a thing. Yeah, all you kids out there are watching the Dragon Ball and playing your PlayStation. So we want to cross over with those because those are cool. And anything else we can cross over that, but it's not about making money. It's not about making money. No, it's just about keeping the brand relevant. Now, mind you, these are the same people who have repeatedly said that our product doesn't make us money anymore. And the only way for our product to continue to be relevant is if we license it out and make these crossovers. So we can't make money if we don't make these crossovers, because on its own, nothing Wizards of the Coast makes is making us money. But it's not about greed. The fact that we're doing these crossovers has nothing to do with making money, except, of course, the only reason why we're making these crossovers is we aren't making any money. I was joking that there was a Grumpy Cat crossover Magic deck. There should have been. Grumpy Cat would now not demean herself to have a Magic the Gathering set, and I'm sure Tater Tot's family probably would not do that either. They want Grumpy Cat to be remembered as something positive. So I doubt we would ever see a Tater Tot Grumpy Cat crossover with Magic, but you never know. Sadly, Grumpy Cat no longer with us. We miss you. So yeah, you know what? This feels like a quick dash to try and make some quick positive press. And look, guys, we're not as bad as you think we are. Except, of course, we are, because we literally keep telling you we're only doing this to make money, which sounds like greed to me. I don't know. But that does seem to be the main story. Everything else is kind of minor. We're continuing with the whole AI thing, blah, blah, AI this, AI that, AI this, AI that. So that's still a big thing. And then, of course, we got the new Dungeons and Dragons 2024 DM's guide and all the hints that are coming out that we're going to look at in just a sec. And why is Wizards of the Coast bending the truth in regards to the sales numbers of the players' handbooks? But speaking of bending the truth, segue. Remember when Wizards of the Coast said they weren't going to be making character record sheets anymore because they didn't see the need and it wasn't cost effective? And they wanted people to use the digital character record sheets because, as Chris Cox says, he games every week and he has at least 40 to 80 friends, all of whom are using AI to play. And it's just so fun. So because there's 40 to 80 people he games with every week, which is physically impossible, he doesn't see the need to make character record sheets because everybody is using the computer. So they said they're not going to make them anymore. They then proceeded to make them. So, of course, it's not that they lied about it. They just forgot to tell us. That's not a lie, right? That's an admission of truth. And we can blame that on the utter lack of communication between the various departments of Wizards of the Coast, right? This isn't them lying. They forgot that they made character record sheets when they said they weren't going to make character record sheets, right? All right, moving on to the biggie, sneak peeks into the DM's guide for those who haven't been seeing them. Because remember, this is the DM's guide you don't need because everything's backwards compatible. All right, first we have the new rules for magic items. New rules for magic items. This is a continuation, expansion of the magic item creation rules that will be in the new player's handbook, but this will cover the how to make the other 400 magic items that will be available for player characters. Why go out and find them when you can make them? Now, will we be seeing any of the famous classic magic items, like, stuff that honors the predecessors? Or are we going to see 400 new magic items that have nothing to do with the history? Is the Ring of Gax gone? Deck of Many Things? Wand of Orcus? I mean, those are all problematic, right? So obviously they will be replaced. But yeah, you don't need to go look for them because now you can make them. Now, there is a video where Chris Perkins and James Wyatt delve into the new rules. Chris Perkins looking, as always, like he needs a sandwich and a hug. They give some examples of the building rules and how long it takes them. And stuff like that. The time required, in-person hours, plus assistance. So adding some meta gaming in and what proficiencies you will need to make them and how long it is and stuff like that. You can make arcane, gems, relics, implements, armaments, etc. Can you make artifacts of, the legendary ones? Like, can I craft myself a Wave Whelm and Black Razor? We don't know. That would require us looking at the video.
We have, which I know players are super excited for,
I just want to see
extended crafting rules, and we have a lot of magical items. Can you tell me a little bit about that chapter?
Well, let's see. Where do we start? How about the beginning? At the beginning of the chapter, we talk about...
Chris doesn't look so bad in this one, probably because he's not in the same room with Crawford. Eat a sandwich, Chris. Eat a sandwich, Chris. Eat a sandwich, Chris. Chris needs a hug and a sandwich. So we've got treasure building. Is this something that people gonna want, or this is a continuation of rules we already had? Is this something that could have been maybe a separate book? I'd rather see the old classic magic items updated to 6E than getting rid of them and replacing them with rules to make your own. What is my incentive to go out and adventure now if everything I need to do I can do through these crafting rules? I don't need to go look for the Ring of Invisibility. I can make one. Now, as somebody who's dedicated hundreds of hours to staying in Stormwind and just crafting, yeah, it's doable. But where was the excitement in that? For me, it was the obsessive compulsive of getting my skills high enough that I could get the cool artifacts that my class and build made. But basically, that was it. I'd spend 2-3 hours walking between Auction House and the blacksmith, Auction House, blacksmith, until I got my stat high enough. Obsessively compulsive, that was fun for me, but I mean, from a role-playing point of view, that would be utterly boring. But is that what they're trying to tell us? Now that you can make them, you don't have to leave the village. Why go and not be safe? Remember, Dungeons and Dragons is comfy and happy. Now, mind you, many of these rules have already been seen in previous things like Tasha's, but so what? Those don't exist anymore. Yeah, so a huge chunk of the new DM's guide, not counting the 71 new pieces of art, will be building magic items. Is the DMG any good? Well, if that's something that excites you, new rules for building and crafting magic items in 6th edition, then yes, it's good. If it's something that doesn't excite you, then I don't know. I mean, it doesn't really do a thing for me. I'd rather find magic items than build them or buy them. It always pissed off the DMs when they ran we're just going to have everybody go buy magic items in Waterdeep instead of an actual game because I'm too lazy to come up with a scenario and the players don't want to leave Waterdeep. And they were like, well, what are you going to buy? And I'm like, nothing. I have everything I want, and anything I find out in the wilderness adventuring will be 100 times better than anything I can buy. And I don't believe in buying magic items because I think that's just a lazy cop-out. So yeah, there's nothing I want. Can we please get on to the adventure? All right. So that one, not so much. Moving on, we've got the Bastion, where this is the other thing we've got a sneak peek so far. The Bastion rules. This one is actually kind of interesting. It's been a long time coming. I don't know why we haven't seen anything like this before. At 5th level, you can acquire a Bastion. Each week, your Bastion takes a turn, which actions including crafting, recruiting, research, trade, and more. The Bastion also gives you a number of special facilities, starting at 5th level all the way up to 17th, where things like armories, workshop, laboratories, stables, menageries, and more. There's a total of 30 such things that your Bastion can do, depending upon what direction you want it to go. Does that sound familiar? That sounds a lot like, I don't know, a video game. And we know the Bastion mechanic is going to be part of the upcoming, it's not a video game VTT, where your character can just hunker down on a piece of land and spend fantasy money to build your fantasy house that will do things for you while you're in the house and while you're out the house. Now, kingdom building, Bastion building, it's not new. It actually goes all the way back to the very first early days when the characters would, slow down around 5th, 8th level, take all the hundreds of thousands of gold they'd found and invest it in, I don't know, building a castle or setting up a thieves guild, setting up their wizard's tower, beginning their assassin's guild, setting up their warrior fight pit, whatever. And then we had rules for castle building and how much a parapet cost and how much a tower cost. And so those rules have been around, but then they kind of went away, and then they kind of came back, and then they kind of came away. And then other companies made the rules, but they just did them so much better. I mean, the kingdom building rules are in, Paizo's kingdom building rules and campaign building rules and meta building rules are excellent. So I guess Wizards has decided to look at the video game mentality that they want direction to go on and then incorporate it into D&D. So once you're 5th level, you can build your own house and you can have your house start doing things for you. And then you just check once every game, once a week, whatever, to see how many things your house has successfully built for you. So as your house is chugging away, you could leave and do more stuff, but it's more advantageous to stay in your house while it's building things. Darkwinter says, hey, Farvey had a cleric and herbalist able to brew healing potions, then they forgot the herbalist kits use nature and not arcana, as arcana is arcane magic, not divine. Another throwing Crawford got wrong. Crawford get things in D&D wrong? I always thought that they need to be made to order, and the supplies they need, the adventurer often has to supply. Yes, that's usually the way I would do it. Hey, if they went to the alchemist to make potions that the alchemist didn't readily on hand, the alchemist would be like, well, I'd love to make this for you, but I don't have the materials. If you want to go get them, if you want to get me grave moss and troll blood, I can make that potion, but I don't have it here. Funny thing is the players always get uppity with the alchemists because the alchemist is saying, I don't have that. Can you go get it for me? Like Guilds in Neverwinter. Absolutely. Or, or any video game where you got a place and this place you could hang things and you could, have the place do things. And while you're in the place, the do things are more progressive. That is, when you leave the place, the do things aren't as progressive. I mean, even in Minecraft, if I'm in my farm in Minecraft, my farm produces wheat way faster than if I've left my farm and I'm out investigating, unless I, of course, get a villager and turn that villager into a farmer and then make sure that villager doesn't wander off or get killed. Then my farm produces as much stuff while I'm there as while I'm away. But still, it's more conducive for me to stay in my farm and do other things. So it's the same mentality. In Minecraft and video games, there is a subset where if you want to start doing kingdom building bastion play, it becomes more rewarding to remain in the bastion, to remain in the kingdom, than it does to adventure. This is all going back to the idea that high-level adventurers in OGGGDAD wanted to take their hundreds of thousands of gold and reinvest it in campaign building. So this goes all the way back to day one. Big B settles down from adventuring and starts studying magic, right? And then that way he can equip the next level, the next round of player characters. So that's the Bastion. I think that might be the only thing that's coming out that I think I'm actually interested in, except I've already seen it done. But still, that's a cool thing. I hate to give Wizard props on this one, but this one I give them props. This sounds pretty cool. Of course, it also is conducive to the whole idea that Wizards of the Coast wants D&D to be safe, and you don't need to actually adventure. We want D&D to be a lifestyle brand. We want D&D to be cottagecore. All right, moving on to officially licensed 5th edition product for a little pleasure, 50th anniversary product for a little palate cleanser before we move on to the next two biggies. It's, mind you, still no t-shirt. So we've got the Dungeons & Dragons Pocket Expert, which will conclude all the facts you need to know about D&D, including grow your D&D knowledge, Hateful Guide, compare characters, written by Stacey King. It came out on October 8th for $8. It's a pocket guide, so it doesn't actually tell you anything about D&D, but it's got facts, stats. It's sort of like a mini wiki. Then we have Bookmarks, official 5th edition, 2024 50th anniversary book tabs. Official 6th edition, 2024 50th anniversary Beholder dice. Still no t-shirt. Still no 50th anniversary Dungeons & Dragons t-shirt. Moving on. Honey, why are the 5e
This could be done.
sales?
That's Gavin Newsom signing the strongest rent control law.
Honey,
Hey everyone, Stephen Glicker here.
why are the player handbook sales so low? We've heard this a couple weeks now about people saying that the numbers that Wizards of the Coast is telling us and the numbers that are actually going out the door are completely different. Because in Wizards' mind, all the stuff they sold before street date counts. So the 3,000 copies that they sold at Gen Con, of which Stephen Glicker bought 8,000 and then gave away, all the copies that went on the shelves 2 weeks at smaller stores to test the market, Those were all sold before street date. So as far as the industry is concerned, those don't count. It only counts from street date going forward. And if we go from street date going forward, the sales are abysmal compared to what Wizards of the Coast projected. But then, of course, Wizards of the Coast projections are way bigger than can be actually sustained in the current economy. Hi, Steve. Because Wizards of the Coast is under this, sort of Damocles hanging over their head that they need to make X amount of money every year. And as we know, in Q1, they didn't do that. In fact, they're in the hole for $1 billion. Now, Q2, they did see a 20% profit compared to any other department of Hasbro that showed mostly either breaking even or losses. I mean, it was Wizards of the Coast Digital and Peppa that were making them the most money. And Wizards of the Coast said, see, D&D is making us money. But really it was, no, it's not D&D. It's not Magic the Gathering. It's Monopoly Go that's making you all the money, Wizards of the Coast. It's D&D Beyond. It's the digital stuff that is making the sales, which then, of course, adds impetus to Hasbro saying, look, everybody wants us to go digital. Digital was what making us own money. Look, shareholders, the only thing that made us money was digital. Wizards of the Coast being part of the digital department, they then can say, oh, yeah, no, we made what, Wizards of the Coast shills like Garrity can say, look how much money Wizards of the Coast D&D made. But then, of course, if we actually look at the numbers, it's like, no, you didn't. The Acolyte has a t-shirt, apparently, so why not D&D TO shirt? Oh, there's plenty of shirts. Just no official Wizards of the Coast 50th anniversary Year of the Dragon t-shirt. But you can find t-shirts online, but they're not official. Christmas is going to be a rough time for Wizards of the Coast. There's already a markdown sale on D&D Beyond. So, yes, and we are already hearing rumors for when the products will be on the shelves at Ollie's. Anything that came out before Player's Handbook is either already on the shelves at Ollie's or will be on the shelves at Ollie's by Black Friday. So that includes Vecna and any of the other books that came out in Q2. Those are already on the shelves. We know all the Q1 stuff and all the older books are on the shelves for 20% off. D&D Beyond just announced a big markdown sale, including the new stuff. So yeah. And of course, they're already abandoning Player's Handbook to focus on DM's Guide because Wizards of the Coast practices the fire and forget school of advertising. They get behind a product, they push the fuck out of the product until street day, and then once they let the product go into the wilds, they forget about it and move on to the next product. Because if that product succeeds, they figure it will carry itself and they don't need to talk about it. And people like me will give them tons of free press, so they don't need to talk about it. And the OSR will complain about the Sparkle Trolls and how horrible 6th edition is, so they don't need to talk about it. And if it's a failure, then they can just forget it and focus on the next one, which is right now the DM's Guide. And they'll do the same thing with the DM's Guide. They'll push the fuck out of it into a release date, and then once it's out in the wild, they'll completely forget about it and move on to what's ever next, again counting on all the free press they'll get from the interweb. They don't need to do the work. We do the work for them. And that, and in that category, they are right. Why pay an advertising company hundreds of thousands of dollars to advertise when they get free advertising from people like me? I doubt it will happen, but sure. So the sales projected versus the actual sales are way lower going into November. That is not a good thing, because that means come Black Friday, come the big sales, the projected amount of Player Handbook sales will not equal the actual Player Handbook sales, because there are not as many Player's Handbooks as there should be, because Wizards of the Coast broke their fucking own street date. And while we haven't heard how much trouble they're in for breaking street date, you do get in trouble for breaking street date. I mean, even I remember working retail, and like, even if we put up the thing that might have hinted that the product was in stock, we could get fined. And if an investigator from, who was it? Weights and Measures, I think, right? I think it's Weights and Measures, who makes sure street date is maintained. So it's a huge fine to violate street date, which Wizards of the Coast did. They violated their own street date. Now, have they gotten in trouble for it? Probably. Are we going to hear about them getting in trouble for it? No, because Hasbro feels they can just throw as much money as they need to not worry about any bad press the fact that they violated street date will get, because, again, they're relying on Stephen Glicker to talk about them way more than Hasbro has to. So as long as Stephen Glicker's talking about it, we can ignore the fact that they violated street date. Sales aren't as big as we want. Well, that is a big thing, because we still promised our shareholders by end of Q3 X amount of money, and by the end of Q4 we still have to pay back that $1 billion debt. So Wizards of the Coast has this $1 billion debt hanging over their heads going all the way into January. We need to see you repay us the $1 billion that you lost us in Q1, plus make us an additional $1 billion by January 1st, or else. So how is Wizards of the Coast handling this? How are we handling this? Well, we know how they're handling this. We know how they're going to be merchandising the future of the product to make as much money as they can and maintain the technical superiority they think they're going to have. And that's the AI. That is the big controversy. It's the controversy that has been shaking the very pillars of Dungeons and Dragons since it was first announced in 2020. And it's still shaking the very pillars of the industry today, 2024, 4 years after they told you they were going to do this in 2020. Now, the main problems regarding the AI smorgasbord are, first, Wizards can't get their stories right. Now, this is partially due to the fact that Wizards has the memory of a goldfish, and partially due to the fact that Wizards of the Coast no longer have people whose job it is to communicate within the company, or would have communicate between the company and the rest of the world, because they fired all those people. And yet nonsense like this happens. So they were going to use AI. They weren't going to use AI. They were going to use AI. They absolutely were not going to use AI. Okay, we're going to use a little AI, but that's it. Nope, fuck it. We're just going to use AI. Fuck you. We're not even going to bother pretending anymore. We're using it. We've been using it. We're going to use it forward, because why pay somebody like Earl Otis to do the art when the AI can do the art? Why pay somebody like the OGGM to write product when the AI can write product? Then I only have to pay some kid $20 an hour to load the shit online once the AI's done it. And we know that the AI is going to have the responsibility, the power to go through the entire 50 years of TSR, Wizards of the Coast, anything that they own, that they have access to that's been digitized, chew it all up, gobble it all out to present brand new content. A lot of people are upset about that, but I would say, considering the level of content we've seen from Wizards of the Coast, maybe the AI can do a better job. They certainly can't do worse. This, of course, enters us into a very weird legal thing that there is no right answer to. Because I don't know, because the AI thing is so new, especially when it comes to the written word. We've pretty much got the AI art thing down. I mean, there's still going to be arguments about it, but the whole legality and most of that's been, we're working that out. The legislation is out there. The court cases have happened, so we have the establishment. But in the case of the AI plunging the depths of anything that's ever been given to Wizards, that's undiscovered country. That's brand new. We don't know how the legality is. Is it still my content if the Wizards of the Coast AI gobbles it all up, mashes it together with a couple other content, and then regurgitates it back out? Is it still mine? Ship of Theseus. Is the boat still the boat if you've replaced every piece of the boat? Or is it just the idea? So, case in point, Eberron. Everybody who submitted to that Eberron contest did so knowingly that anything they submitted to Wizards of the Coast became the property of Wizards of the Coast. And Wizards of the Coast could use it in the future without telling you and without paying you. That was part and partial. Same thing with D&D Beyond. A lot of people didn't know this, and a lot of people got upset about this, even though D&D Beyond was doing this even before Wizards bought them. Once you put something on D&D Beyond and agreed to it, it became theirs, and they could do whatever they wanted with it. So that is the concern. That is the concern, that now the AI has the ability to go through anything that's ever been submitted and turn it into a brand new product, and Wizards doesn't have to pay you. Well, if you've submitted anything in the past 10 years, that's 100% true, because that was the contract and has been the contract and is still the contract. Any contest, any D&D Beyond, DM's Guild, we're still not sure, but we think they're okay. But if you submit it and it's an official 5e and you've done it through Wizards of the Contest, it's theirs. But what about the stuff that came before? What about the stuff that had individual special contracts like Dragonlance, Ravenloft, Eberron, or even going further, Forgotten Realms? Because Wizards of the Coast can make Forgotten Realms product, but Ed is still making Forgotten Realms product that has absolutely nothing to do with Wizards of the Coast. Same with Eberron, right? Keith sold Eberron to another company because he wanted to move on. That company is entitled to make Eberron product that has absolutely no connection to Wizards of the Coast. But Wizards of the Coast can still make Eberron product, and they can still mine whatever Eberron product they already have. So this is new, and this article tries to cover it, but it's very difficult to cover because there's no precedence. So the best thing I could tell everybody as the evolution of the AI continues is we know this is going to happen. We know it's out there, and we know for as long as people can take advantage of the technology, they will take advantage of the technology. Wizards is not the only company doing it. They're just the ones who are doing it the most stupid, because that's Wizards. The best advice I think we can get from this article and going forward is, well, if you released anything to Wizards in the last 10 years in any shape or form, I'm sorry, you're fucked. Move along. If you release stuff to Wizards before, or even going all the way back to the TSR Dragon Magazine days, and you can still prove it's yours, you might want to talk to somebody and make sure how protected you are, because we had a lot of individual contracts, we had general contracts, we had work for hire contracts, I submitted an article to Dragon Magazine, blah 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 blah. What about all the stuff that Wizards of the Coast is going to get their hands on now that this TSR Justin Lanasa nonsense is supposedly resolved? Go to Tabletop Taproom, run by my friend Tom, to find out what's going on with that, because I won't cover that. That's all his and Eric and Don's purveyance. I don't know. I really don't know. Just all I can tell you guys, if you're really worried about it, and that's the general idea from this article, is don't give stuff to Wizards. Just don't make 5e product, 6e product, and hope that Wizards is going to take care of you, because right now they're not. There are other ways you can support 5e without dealing with Wizards. You've got Tales of the Valiant, and you've got Project Black Flag. You've got the ORC. You've got a whole bunch of third-party 5e adjacent stuff out there that you can make product under, and Wizards can do anything about it, because it's coming, because at the end of the day, because that's so Wizards. Have a great day, everybody. I'll see you later.
Laughing aloud now. magic in the air. Wands swirl around us, cast away our care. Friends in the hallways, adventures we find. Spells and enchantments, trouble on our mind. That's so wizard, oh, oh, oh. Life is a spell we know. We're casting joy and glow, oh, oh. That's the wizard show. Mischief in the classroom, potions gone astray.